Hello everyone, my name is Simon Fonseca and this is my colleague
Aldo Vasquez.
and today we'll be presenting Chapter 10. Chapter 10's topic is about persuasive messages. To understand persuasive messages, we first need to understand what persuasion is. A basic definition of persuasion is the art of getting what you want. This could also be understood as influencing others to see the benefits of your ideas and act on your request, even when they initially resist. This can be used in business to convince your customers, or they could also be used in the workplace to convince your coworkers, employees, on the way they think, feel, or behave. You might be asking yourself, how does persuasion work? In order for others to accept your ideas and adjust their own, you must first show that you care and how your ideas fit with their interests. In simple terms, understanding the other side's argument is just as crucial as understanding your own. Without this, you will not be successful. For business, this is mainly used for products and services. The best argument is one that always meets the needs and wants of your audience. There are 4 ways to understanding your audience. The first one is having a shared purpose and value. When working in teams, you can influence best when they believe you are sincerely acting on behalf of the organization and for them. You are candid about the reasons behind your request, and others are confident that your ideas will really make a positive difference. You should sparingly use this because if it's done too much, it can be seen as self-serving or insincere. You should also show need and appreciation. Showing others they're needed and appreciated will often come back to you. Colleagues want to feel needed and appreciated to get things done. They must trust you when you show them gratitude for your persuasive efforts to be effective. Under methods of influence, there are 6 principles of persuasion. Reciprocation is based on returning favors. Consistency is based on the idea that people tend to follow a commitment. Social proof is that people determine what is right, wrong, or desirable by seeing what others do. Next is liking. People are more likely to be persuaded by people they like. For authority, people basically follow authority figures. And lastly, there is scarcity. People think there's a limited availability of something they want or need, they must act quick. Lastly, to understand your audience, you must also show emotion and reason. Applying a strong emotional attachment to competing ideas, products, and services provides your audience with a sense of care they can relate to. Now let's talk about message structure, which is composed of 7 subsections. Your message can be direct and explicit. Direct is when you begin with the main idea or argument and then provide the supporting reasons. Explicit is where nothing is implied and statements contain full and unambiguous meaning. Your message can also be indirect and implicit. Indirect in that they provide the rationale for a request before making the specific request, where implicit implies the request or some other rationale for the request. Third is attention. You have to gain the attention of your readers by asking a rhetorical question, providing a compelling or interesting fact, revealing a compelling statistic, issuing a challenge, or posting a testimonial. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Need, solution, and rationale is accomplished by first tying your product or service or idea to the needs of your readers in the body of your message. Counterpoints provides objections to the audience members by showing them how their own ideas, products, or services were superior to the competing ideas, products, or services the audience favored. Lastly, we have action, in which you ask readers to take a specific step towards the purchase of a product or service or acceptance of an idea. These factors are all important when setting up your persuasive message. A way in which persuasion applies to large audiences would be through mass sales messages. This type of messages are sent to a large group of consumers to market a particular product or service. This is shown in the forms of mass emails, online ads, or sales letters. These messages typically have low success rates due to its size. A standard structure of a mass sell message would be to gain attention, generate interest, build desire, and call to action. Ensuring you take into consideration these factors, you can be sure that you will effectively persuade large audiences. Next, let's talk about persuasion and when it's done correctly and poorly. First, let me explain that there are two types of persuasive messages, which are internal and external. When creating both internal and external persuasive messages, the same elements are applied. These elements consist of gaining attention, raise a need, deliver a solution, provide a rationale, show appreciation for opinions, give counterpoints, and call readers to action. Although they have similarities, internal persuasive messages focus on promoting ideas, while external messages are focused on promoting products and services. Let's take a look at the left picture. This picture is the less effective internal persuasive messages. As you can see, this is ineffective because it lacks of a tangible need and the solution is vague. It also needs an attention getter. It fails to show validation of perspective and the wrong tone is used. The picture on the right shows you an effective letter. As you can see, it gains attention effectively, it provides the need and solution correctly, possesses a rationale, and calls to action at the end. This next slide consists of external messages. The example on the left is when it's done poorly, and the example on the right is when it's done correctly. In the example to the left, Mark includes all the components of persuasive messages, except for a show of appreciation and call to action. It also has a we voice, which makes it seem as if the focus was more on themselves rather than the potential customer. Lastly, it does not provide tangible benefits. As I mentioned before, the example on the right is when persuasion is done correctly. In this effective example, Mark adds a you voice instead, which shifts the entire focus on the customer. Also, Mark added the tangible benefits for the customer. In addition, the format makes each benefit stand out as well as help the customer identify the worth. Persuasion is highly important in business. You may ask why. Let's take in consideration that all businesses are made for profit. To profit to be generated, a business must have revenues, which means they must sell their products or services. For you to sell a product or service, it is crucial to have great marketing skills. Persuasion is a powerful message in a marketing campaign primarily to sway decisions. It is crucial to understand the importance of listening, speaking, and tweaking effectively, so your audience, in this case your customers, know the main goal. The most common methods of persuasion in business include television, social media, advertising, and newspapers. All of these are great marketing tools a business can use to persuade a customer to buy a product. To effectively persuade in business, you must be familiar with your product or service. You must know every aspect of your product or service, and you should be able to describe it with your eyes closed. You should also know your audience, what it consists of, their demographics, and what they are interested in. You should also be confident while presenting your ideas. In my opinion, the best way to be confident while presenting your ideas is by practicing over and over again. Lastly, you should have a clear desired action you want your audience to take, which in most cases would be wanting them to buy a product from you.
Creating the perfect persuasive message since the beginning can result in a challenging task. For that reason, there are some steps that you can follow to create an effective persuasive message. The first step is to get organized. This step is really important because if you don't have relevant information since the beginning, it will be more difficult for you to develop your ideas and for your audience to understand all your statements. To organize your ideas more effectively, you can create an outline that gives direction to the project from the start and makes the process of writing the first draft more easier to attract the attention of the reader. Another step is to maintain your credibility. You must show credibility with each statement you give, and you can do this by showing statistics, news, or graphics that support your thesis. Your credibility is also influenced by how seriously you take the arguments advanced. If you show the appropriate credibility, your audience will be attracted to your product. Another step is to adopt the right tone. The tone is really important because when it comes to deliver a message, you must be very careful on what type of tone you're using. Tone can be defined as the underlying attitude we take towards the audience. There are different types of tone. However, you must choose wisely which tone you will be using, and for that, you must first know what type of message you want to communicate and what type of audience you have. Another important step is to make it easy to read. As you revise, look very carefully on what you're saying and what you have in your arguments. Eliminate all unnecessary information. This is really important to avoid confusion within the audience. The last step is to take pride in your work. It is said that those who take pride in their work put out a finished product that's pleasing to the eye. So in other words, you must proofread carefully to avoid any type of confusion for your audience. When it comes to deliver a persuasive message, it is really important to choose the appropriate media for that message. There are different ways in which people can deliver a persuasive message to a particular audience. However, some of them have a higher degree of effectiveness than others. There are three main sources in which one can develop a persuasive message. However, before choosing your media, you must first consider some aspects in order to determine which media you will be using. Some of the aspects are: what is your intention? What is the purpose of your message you want to communicate? Also, you must consider the size of your audience. Another important factor is: what degree of importance does your message have? Another one is the formality of the message. Is it formal or informal? By having all those aspects in consideration, then you can proceed to select the media. One of the media is the written form. This is mainly used when the audience is a large population and it is not possible to reach everyone geographically. Also, you can use written media when your message is kind of complex to understand and you don't need immediate feedback from your audience. Another reason is to ensure that the message cannot be altered after you send it. There's also the electronic media, and it is mainly used when the sender is physically separated from the audience and needs to deliver a message really quick. Also, the electronic media can be used to give the audience the opportunity to edit the message, such as editing a word processing document. And one last reason could be that your message could be benefit from multiple media, such as audio and video. The last media that can be used is the oral media. This is mainly used when the time is limited and information is needed quickly. It also helps in solving conflicts because it solidifies ideas and creates a possible solution. This is also used when your message is straightforward and it's easy to communicate. Also, it can be used when your message has an emotional content. From our point of view, the oral media is the most effective way to deliver a persuasive message because you also have the chance to interact with the audience by using nonverbal communication as well. However, one of the main issues when using the oral media is that it may sometimes be misinterpreted because of the tone of your voice or because of disorganization of ideas. What approach should I use in order to deliver an effective persuasive message? First of all, we must have in mind that there are two different types of approaches. The first one is the direct approach. This type of approach occurs when the person delivering the message comes with the idea first, at the beginning, followed by the evidence to support its statement. This approach is mainly used when your audience will be neutral or your message is positive. On the other hand, the indirect approach occurs when the person delivering the message comes with the evidence first, which then leads to the main idea. This type of approach is commonly used when your message contains some negative content that your audience resists to hear. On the other hand, there's also the IDA model. The IDA model stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. This type of model is commonly used in business and marketing. The way it works is basically you must first identify some of the cognitive steps that an individual follows throughout a typical buying process. The first step in this type of model is to get the attention of your audience. You can do this by starting your presentation or your message with some interesting question. By doing this, you will gain the attention of your audience and your product or service will be more attractive for them. After that, you must be generating interest for the audience. You must generate sufficient interest to encourage the buyer to start to research further. After that, you'll have to increase the desire. You can do this by talking about some of the positive aspects of your product or service. You can do this by establishing an emotional connection between your product and the audience. You must show your audience the personality of your product and the benefits that it has. Stay away. The last step is to motivate the action. You can do this by encouraging the buyer to interact with your company, the product you are selling, or the service you are offering. This is really important because you must make sure that the buyer takes the next step in order for you to be successful with this model.
Next, we will talk about tone and persuasion. The tone in persuasion messages is extremely important. Tone should be confident and positive, but you should also avoid hype or exaggeration. The writing style should be action-oriented and lively. Proofreading by yourself and with the help of other colleagues will help you get the right writing style to set your message apart. Listed below is applying the personal touch. Use action-oriented, lively language, write with confidence, offer choice, and show positivity. All of these set the tone in a persuasion message. Let's begin with applying the personal touch. Applying the personal touch is creating messages that speak directly to your customers and colleagues. It requires you to use language that helps your customers feel the product, service, or idea is just for them. One of the most important strategies you can use for this is your selection of voice. It could either be the you voice, which is used in external messages, which makes customers feel like they're the center of attention. You can use the we voice, which is used in internal messages to emphasize shared work goals, and it can focus too much on the company instead of the customers. Or you can use I voice, which is using sparingly in all messages. In addition, you could also use impersonal voice, which emphasizes objectivity and neutrality. You should make your products tangible, meaning something that can be touched, material, or substantial. Next, let's talk about the use of action-oriented and lively language. Here, your language should be more creative. We should use action-oriented and lively words to generate a sense of excitement, optimism, or other positive emotions. We should also use strong nouns and verbs. The next bullet point talks about writing with confidence. Higher confidence effectively influences your audience. This allows the consumer to gain confidence in the message. In internal messages, expressing confidence in key players who make the change occur is extremely crucial. One should also offer choices. Most people emphasize choice rather than intent. Emphasis on choice and you voice and simply language combine to make this the most influential statement. Choice is an indicator of credibility. They view simple language as a display of transparency and respect. Be careful about being perceived as presumptions with this. Lastly, we should show positivity. It helps focus on the benefits rather than the drawbacks. You should avoid superlatives like stating that your product is the best product on the market or the state of art. Consumers perceive too good to be true statements as attempt to convince them of the merits without making a rational argument. By taking all of these factors into consideration, you will be sure that you have set the tone to persuade someone.